So this is Thursday, October 15th, and you are Alex Williams, 2020. And
Yes.
you're Alex Williams. And I'm just doing some talking with you about your spiritual journey. So I have some notes here about what you've said previously about your spiritual journey. You said that you read The Crack in the Cosmic Egg when you were a young man, and that you also read Real Magic. And that kind of opened the world up to you. You've been raised Baptist, but and in a materialist society, but you found that there was another reality, and that was your first step into that other reality. So, can you talk to me a little bit about what it was like to read those books and how that shifted you on your magical journey?
Yes. Yeah, at that point in time, I was 20, 21, and had rejected Christianity as a way of service more than anything else, more than the religion. But I was just in advanced training in the Army. I had been drafted in the last draft of the involuntary drafts of the 70s. And I stumbled across both Real Magic by Isaac Bonowitz and Crack in the Cosmic Egg by Joseph Chilton Pearce, who was, I think it was his first book at the time. And it contained quite a few things that challenged most people's worldview and slightly challenged mine, although I had been open to alternate views of reality, alternate worldviews, for probably a year or so, as a result of some experiences in college, some visionary experiences in college. And so when I read Pearce's Crack in the Cosmic Egg, there were quite a few things that gave me some insight into alternate realities, into other not alternate realities, but other worldviews, other ways of looking at the world that we exist in.
I want to hear a little bit more about your visionary experiences in college.
At some point in my freshman year, I was walking around campus late at night, midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning, and again I was looking up at the sky as I did when I was a child in my backyard at my home, and looking up at the stars and looking in wonder at what was there. And I had this feeling that someone or something was trying to communicate with me, to give me an understanding of why I was here, why I was in this world, that there was something I was to do. And like many, late adolescents and early 20s young people, we always think there's something valuable and important that we're going to do, that there's something for us to change the world, make the world a better place. But I had no idea at that point what it was. And so I looked up at the stars and I implored the stars themselves to give me some kind of indication that there was something else, that there was, if not life after death, that there was a continuation of the soul. And it wasn't like explosive, but there was this understanding at the end of the evening before I left the open spaces of the campus that that there was something that I would do, and that in time I would learn what that was. I wasn't going to learn it tonight. It wasn't going to be an earth-shattering visionary experience or world view-shattering visionary experience, but there was this calmness and an understanding that I would not need to struggle to figure out my purpose, that it would be presented to me in due time. But nearing the end of my journey, I still understand that service is one of the things that I was to do. And I believe I have accomplished a lot of that service to other people, in terms of teaching, in terms of being a role model for looking at the world differently. And at this point, and at several points in the last 30 years, I've understood that simply to be is a purpose for being here. And teaching other people that, or exemplifying to other folks, that simply being is the purpose of life in this manifest universe. That there is no higher purpose than experiencing the world. That's what we came here to do. The play of Leela, the play of the gods, is to manifest as human beings and to manifest as the world, just in order to experience. And so, as I move into the final stages, I am focusing on both, to some extent, extending it, but not so much, though, struggling against it. Just simply, I'm intending to do whatever practices I need to do in order to prepare for a transition to another phase of life. That's what death is, another phase of life, another phase of existence, a rest period. Who knows? No one really knows, except the sages and saints who've experienced it. And I think I probably have done that in the past, but this time I would like to remember what that stage is. I would like to remember in my next incarnation, if there is one, and there probably will be. I don't think I've reached the end of the manifest journey, that I remember more of this life, that I remember more of the valuable things that I've learned simply through being and becoming. So
when you connected with the universe, you had you've come to understand your connection to the universe in a specific way, and you have names for that understanding, the connection with the larger cosmos. And you said to me before that each of us is the consciousness of the universe. So what do you call the cosmos now? Do you call it Shiva, Kali, or just universe?
Yeah. Shiva, Kali, those are all manifestations, as I myself am a manifestation of. And if there is a highest existence, it's consciousness. It's what the Hindu call Brahman. Atman is the self manifested from that consciousness, as is the physical manifest universe. So consciousness is the highest layer, or the bottom layer, the foundational layer of what the universe is. And what I am is consciousness, and I am one small manifest part of that consciousness. I encountered adherents of Muktananda and the writings of Muktananda in Atlanta in the not quite mid-70s, 74, I guess. Yeah, 1974. I encountered an occult bookshop that at those times mainly focused on astrology and theosophy and the related subjects. There wasn't much about the other parts of the occult at that point. So I heard people talking about Muktananda in the bookstore, because I would spend a lot of time there. They had comfortable chairs and that sort of thing. You could sit and actually, quick read through the books. So I heard people talking about going off to India to Muktananda's ashram, and I was kind of fascinated by how someone could just pick up stakes and hie off to India. So I realized I wasn't going to do that, but I did discover that there was a local group and a local ashram there in Atlanta. And so I attended a couple of their open sessions, and mostly they were meditation and kirtan, or the singing of devotional hymns to primarily Shiva. Those were the beginning of how I was affected by devotional chant, by kirtan. It moved me greatly. The fact that all of these people were extremely devoted in their service. And there was a stage which almost no one ever actually spoke from. They spoke from the floor. But there was a stage on the front of which were some of the artifacts of Muktananda's travels. He had done several world tours, one of which brought him through Atlanta, and he'd left some items, one of which was a pair of slippers that he'd worn. And I didn't quite, if I remember correctly, I did not quite understand what the term Shaktipat meant. That it was, I had the notion that it was a feather that Muktananda could actually use to impart an energy to anyone he chose to, and thus energize what is known as a Kriya Yoga experience, where the energy spontaneously moves up the spine. And what I didn't know was that any of the artifacts that he had touched or worn or used could also transmit that energy. And for some reason, foolish young person that I was, I went up to the stage and I touched the shoes without knowing any of that. I only discovered later that Shaktipat could be transmitted remotely and through artifacts, but also through dreams, in which I had one dream where Muktananda came to me in the dream and touched me with a feather, and more or less transmitted the Shiva mantra, Om Namah Shivaya. It's one of the simplest available. As I started to use it, I would use it at work, and just to pass the time, and also to begin to work the mantra, to activate the mantra, because though it had been transmitted in a dream, it felt necessary to do, and it was Muktananda taught that you do the mantra continually. So it became my earworm that I could stop consciously doing the mantra and it would continue rolling. And at times, many times in the ensuing months, it would just start up spontaneously when I wasn't consciously thinking about it. The Mrityunjaya mantra is both for healing and for preparation for passage out of this life and into another. So my teacher in Tantra gave me the empowerment of the Mrityunjaya, and I do it daily as a in conjunction with a couple of other practices in my daily practice or a sadhana. Rajahomam is a dissolution of the body and a resurrection into a body of light of the deity, in this case Rudra Shiva. The Mrityunjaya itself, which I do, it varies. It depends on the evening, from 11 to 108 times. That's the base practice. I was also given a Kali mantra, which I do try to add in when I feel there's not quite a balance, when there's too much Shivite energy, too much energy of Rudra, then I try to balance it out with the Kali mantra.